Billionaire love stories. A wealthy man removes his disguise for love. What he uncovers tears his heart apart. Listen closely, because before we dive into today's story, I need to ask you something that might shake you to your core. Picture this: if every single thing you owned vanished tomorrow morning, your money gone, your reputation erased, your lifestyle stripped away like leaves in a storm, who would still be standing beside you when the dust settled? Who would choose you, just you, with nothing else attached? Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Now, settle in. This isn't just another tale about a rich man testing his girlfriend. Oh no, this is about what happens when comfort slowly, quietly suffocates connection. It's about how silence, that heavy, unbearable silence, reveals more raw truth than 1,000 arguments ever could. Meet Marcus Bennett. He's standing alone right now, staring at his reflection in a floor-to-ceiling mirror inside his luxury high-rise. Behind him, the city sparkles like scattered diamonds, each light representing a deal he closed, a contract bearing his signature, a room where his name commands respect. For years, this view has been his trophy. Tonight it feels like an accusation. His fingers move slowly to his wrist. The watch there, custom-made, absurdly expensive, worth more than most people scrape together in half a year, feels suddenly heavy. He turns it over in his palm, studying it like he's never really seen it before. Then, with a breath that catches in his throat, he places it gently in a drawer and pushes it closed. His wrist feels naked, vulnerable, and somehow that nakedness matters more than he ever imagined it would. Marcus is self-made, mid-30s. He didn't inherit a penny of his fortune. Every single dollar came from risks that kept him awake at night, from pressure that crushed weaker men, from long, brutal nights when failure breathed down his neck. But success brought something he never expected. It brought protection, a shield. Money doesn't just buy convenience, you see. It buys explanations before questions are asked. It buys forgiveness before mistakes are made. It buys people's patience, their understanding, their tolerance. And lately, Marcus has been drowning in a question that won't leave him alone. How much of my life is built on that protection? How much of what I think is real is just purchased? His phone glows on the table. A message from Sophia, his girlfriend. "Are you absolutely sure about this weekend?" Marcus reads those words 3 times. Sophia has always adored weekends, the kind where menus don't list prices, where trips feel spontaneous but someone else has already handled every detail, where rooms are prepared and perfect before you arrive. He doesn't blame her, not really, but the question has been growing inside him like a tumor. Would she still choose me if all of this disappeared? Would she still look at me the same way if I had nothing to offer but me? That question is why he sold the car she loved being seen in, why he told his board he needed time away, why he signed a lease on a cramped 1-bedroom apartment miles from everything that made his life enviable. This isn't a game, this is a reckoning. He types back, his fingers hesitating over each word. "Yes, I just want to keep things simple." The reply takes forever. When it finally comes, it lands like a stone in his chest. "Well, that'll be quite an adjustment." Adjustment. That word sits in his mind like broken glass. He looks around his penthouse one last time, the art that costs more than homes, the silence that only money can buy, the life that never ever asks him who he is without it. You see, discomfort doesn't change people, it just reveals what they already valued all along. Marcus grabs an old jacket from the closet, plain, worn, forgettable. Exactly what he needs. He slips it on, picks up a small duffel bag, and pauses with his hand on the door. If she stays, he whispers to himself, then I'll know it was real. And if she doesn't, he can't finish that thought. The door closes with a soft click. Marcus Bennett, the millionaire, stays locked inside that penthouse. The man who walks into the hallway carries no proof, no armor, no safety net. Just a desperate, aching hope that love, real love, will recognize him without all the noise. And with that single step into the unknown, everything begins to unravel. But what Marcus discovers in that first week will crack something open inside him that can never be sealed again. The signs appear faster than he expected, and they cut deeper than any business failure ever could.
Marcus's new apartment breathes differently than his penthouse ever did. There's no sprawling skyline, no private elevator, no silence cushioned by luxury, just a narrow space with a kitchen that's seen better decades, and the constant hum of traffic reminding him that life down here doesn't slow down for anyone. He drops his bag by the door and just stands there. This is what he described to her. Not tragic, not dramatic, just small, human-sized. He sinks onto the couch, elbows on knees, hands loosely clasped. For years, his days were measured in meetings that affected thousands. Now his attention rests on something achingly simple. How much space does one person actually need? His phone buzzes. Did you find the place? Yes, Marcus types back. It's modest, but it works. Pause. You sound tired. Are you okay? I'm fine, he answers, and he means it. I just want things to slow down for a while. Another pause. This one stretches longer, and in that silence, Marcus hears everything she isn't saying. Well, she finally writes, I guess this will be an adjustment for both of us. There's that word again, adjustment. As if his life is an inconvenience she's graciously willing to tolerate. The next evening, she visits. Marcus watches her face the moment she steps inside. Her eyes dart everywhere, the ceiling, the corners, the second-hand furniture. She smiles, but it doesn't reach anywhere near her eyes. It's cozy, she says. He nods slowly. That's one word for it. They sit down to eat takeout from a diner 3 blocks away. Burgers, fries, paper bags instead of carefully designed plates. Marcus eats normally. Sophia barely touches her food. Her phone sits face up on the table between them. So, she says, glancing around like she's searching for an exit, how long do you think this phase will last? Marcus looks at her, really looks at her. Why does it need a timeline? She laughs, but there's no joy in it. I'm just asking. I mean, I support you. I just didn't expect things to change this fast. Support. Marcus realizes in that moment that support often comes with invisible price tags attached. Over the next few days, the differences become impossible to ignore. They stop going to the places she loves. She hesitates before linking her arm through his in public, as if she's embarrassed to be seen with him. When friends invite them out, she finds creative excuses to decline. When she does join him, her attention drifts like smoke. Marcus notices the pattern. Not anger, not fighting, distance. One afternoon, they meet at a small cafe near his apartment, the kind of place with handwritten menus and mismatched chairs that have stories carved into their wood. She looks around before sitting down, her nose wrinkling slightly. Do we really have to come to places like this now? There's nothing wrong with this place, Marcus says quietly. I know, it's just not what I'm used to. That sentence echoes in his head hours after they leave. Discomfort doesn't demand explanations, it simply reveals priorities. That night, Marcus lies awake staring at cracks in the ceiling he never noticed before. Every interaction replays, the sighs, the glances, the way she talks about before as if it were a destination he owes her. This is the test, he reminds himself, not the dramatic kind, not the kind that explodes all at once, the quiet kind, the kind that shows you who someone really is when no one's keeping score. And slowly, painfully, something shifts inside him. What Sophia misses isn't laughter, isn't closeness, isn't him. She misses ease, she misses certainty, she misses a version of life that never asked her to adjust, to sacrifice, to choose him over comfort. And with that realization comes a truth that sits like lead in his stomach. Some people don't leave when things fall apart, they leave when things become inconvenient. As the days crawl forward, the distance between them grows, not through fights, through absence, through silence, through 1,000 small moments where she chooses something else. And Marcus begins to understand that the hardest part of this experiment might not be what he discovers about her. It might be what he learns about himself, about how long he's been accepting crumbs and calling it love. But the real test is coming, because soon Marcus will have to face her in public, surrounded by the people whose opinions she values most. And what happens there will leave him breathless with a pain he never saw coming.
The invitation arrives on a Thursday. Dinner with friends. Sophia presents it carefully, her voice almost rehearsed, as if she's practiced how to make this sound casual. "Just a small gathering," she says, not quite meeting his eyes. "Nothing serious. People we both know." Marcus agrees, not because he wants to go, but because he understands something crucial. Love isn't really tested in private, it's tested in public, when loyalty costs comfort, when choosing someone means being seen with them exactly as they are. The restaurant sits downtown, polished but not extravagant, the kind of place people choose when they want to look successful without seeming like they're trying too hard. The moment they walk in together, Marcus feels it. Sophia's hand slips from his arm like water through fingers. At the table, introductions start warm. Smiles, light conversation, familiar jokes that everyone's heard before. Marcus listens more than he speaks. He notices how often careers come up, how easily money becomes the language everyone speaks without ever saying the actual word. Someone turns to him, genuine curiosity in their eyes. "So, Marcus, what have you been up to lately?" He answers calmly, honestly. "I've been simplifying things." Brief pause. You could hear it if you were listening closely. "Taking time off?" another person asks, leaning forward. "Something like that," he says. Sophia looks down at her menu, fast. When the waiter arrives, she orders quickly. A salad. No questions, no hesitation. Marcus notices because he knows her well enough to remember how much she adores pasta. This isn't about appetite. This is about control. Halfway through dinner, one of her friends pulls out a phone, scrolling through photos. A recent trip, a resort, bright sunlight bouncing off infinity pools and champagne glasses that catch the light just right. "You would have loved it," the friend says, turning the screen toward Sophia. "We should all go next time." Sophia smiles, but her eyes flick briefly toward Marcus. Guilty, ashamed, trapped. "We've just been keeping things low-key," she says, her voice thin. The friend raises an eyebrow. "Really? That's new." Marcus doesn't speak, doesn't defend, doesn't explain. The check arrives and settles in the center of the table like a verdict. Everyone reaches for their wallets without thinking. Marcus does the same. Sophia leans toward him, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow feels louder than shouting. "Maybe we should split it, just to be practical." Practical. Love becomes practical when belief starts to fade. On the walk home, silence stretches between them like a canyon. "You could have said something," she finally says, her frustration barely contained. "Said what?" Marcus asks. "That this is temporary," she snaps, "that you're just figuring things out." Marcus stops walking. The streetlight above them flickers. "Is that what you need people to believe?" he asks gently. She exhales, frustrated, her breath clouding in the cool air. "I just don't like feeling exposed." Exposed. That word stays with him long after they part ways that night. In the days that follow, the pattern repeats like a drumbeat. She cancels plans, avoids gatherings. When they do go out together, she dresses differently, more carefully, as if she's compensating for something invisible. She talks constantly about other people, their promotions, their homes, their upgrades, their success. Marcus listens.
Social pressure doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells people what they should want and punishes them quietly when they choose otherwise. One afternoon, while she's in the shower, her phone lights up on the coffee table. A message appears on the screen, bright and intrusive. "Miss seeing you. Let me know when you're free again." The name is familiar. Someone from before. Someone who never had to adjust. Marcus doesn't touch the phone, doesn't read further, doesn't need more proof. Some betrayals aren't acts, they're directions, a slow turning away that begins long before anyone admits it. He sits back, understanding something that's been forming for weeks, like ice crystallizing. This is no longer about patience, it's about alignment. And for the first time, he allows himself to consider the possibility that the distance growing between them isn't a misunderstanding, it's a choice. Her choice. As night settles in, Marcus looks around the small apartment that now feels more honest than anything he left behind. The disguise is working, but what it's revealing might destroy everything. And what Marcus witnesses next will shatter the last fragile thread of hope he'd been clutching. Because sometimes seeing the truth isn't enough. Sometimes you have to watch it unfold right in front of you, in full color, undeniable, and crushing. By the fourth week, Marcus no longer needs confirmation. The changes aren't subtle anymore. They've become facts. They don't argue, they don't fight, they don't raise their voices. They simply stop meeting in the middle. It shows in how Sophia checks her reflection before leaving the apartment, adjusting her clothes like she's preparing for an audience Marcus isn't part of anymore. It shows in how she talks more about what she used to have than what she has now. Most of all, it shows in what she no longer asks. She doesn't ask about his day, doesn't ask how he's feeling, doesn't ask if he's okay. She asks when things will go back to normal. One evening, she suggests attending a birthday party for one of her friends. "It'll just be a few people," she says, her voice light but her eyes avoiding his. "Nothing fancy." Marcus agrees, even though he knows what these gatherings have become. They're not about celebration, they're about comparison. The apartment is high above the city, wrapped in glass and expensive lighting, the kind of place that makes people stand straighter the moment they step inside. Conversations flow like rehearsed scripts, laughter rises and falls in practiced rhythms. Marcus stands beside Sophia at first, then slowly she drifts, first just a few steps, then across the room, then into conversations where he's no longer included. When he approaches, the energy shifts, voices lower, smiles tighten. At one point, Marcus finds himself standing alone near the window, looking out at a view he once owned without question. That's when he hears her voice behind him, unaware he's close enough to listen. "I just didn't think it would feel like this," Sophia says quietly. "I mean, I care about him, but everything feels smaller now." Someone responds, but Marcus doesn't hear the words. He doesn't need to. He doesn't turn around, doesn't interrupt, doesn't react. Clarity doesn't require confrontation. On the ride home, she's unusually talkative, filling the silence with words that mean nothing. "You were really quiet tonight," she says. "Are you upset?" "I'm fine," Marcus replies, watching the city lights blur past. She exhales, frustrated. "I just wish you would try harder. For us." "For us?" he repeats softly. "Yes," she says, her voice rising slightly. "I know this phase is important to you, but it's not easy for me either." Marcus looks out the window, the lights streaking like tears on glass. That night, sleep doesn't come. Instead, Marcus sits at the small kitchen table, the room lit by a single lamp that casts long shadows. He thinks about the man he was when this began, certain, desired, surrounded by people who agreed with him easily because disagreeing cost too much. And then he thinks about the man he is now, stripped of status, stripped of explanation, left with only his presence, the version of himself he hoped she would choose. The next morning, Marcus stops softening the truth. When she suggests an expensive restaurant, he says no. When she hints at a weekend trip, he explains he can't afford it right now. When she asks when things will go back to normal, he answers with devastating honesty. This is my normal. Each time he watches her reaction, the forced smile, the quick nod, the way her eyes drift away like she's already somewhere else. One afternoon, she cancels their plans at the last minute. "I forgot I promised to meet someone. I'll call you later." She doesn't. That evening, Marcus sits alone on the couch, the apartment quiet except for the sound of traffic outside, the heartbeat of a city that never stops moving. He doesn't feel anger, doesn't feel panic. He feels clarity. This is no longer a test he's running. The answers have been given, not in words, but in distance, in absence, in 1,000 small choices that all point the same direction. And Marcus understands something that cannot be undone. Some people don't leave because love disappears. They leave because effort becomes visible. The moment arrives without noise. There's no argument, no raised voice, no scene. It arrives quietly, the way most truths do. On an ordinary afternoon, Marcus finishes helping a neighbor carry boxes down the narrow hallway. It's the kind of small, unremarkable favor that's become normal in this life. His hands smell faintly of dust and cardboard as he steps back outside. His phone buzzes. "I'll be busy tonight. Don't wait up." No explanation, no apology. Marcus reads the message twice. Something about the wording feels different, final, as if a decision has already been made somewhere he's no longer invited. He stands there for a moment, then turns down the street instead of heading home. He doesn't plan it, he simply walks. A few blocks away is a cafe Sophia used to love before keeping things low-key became necessary. It's warm inside, softly lit, familiar. Through the front window, Marcus sees her immediately. She's not alone. She sits across from a man Marcus recognizes without effort, someone from her social circle, well-dressed, relaxed, comfortable in a way that suggests this isn't their first meeting. They're laughing, not the polite laughter she shared with Marcus lately. This is unguarded, easy, real, the kind that happens when no one's measuring themselves. Marcus stands beside the window unseen. Then the man says something. Sophia leans in slightly, resting her hand on the table. Her phone lies face down beside her, the same phone that never seems to leave her hand when she's with Marcus. Then the man reaches into his pocket and places something on the table.
Car keys. Sophia looks at them, then at him. Her expression changes, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Her eyes light up. Tell me in the comments, and if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. In that moment, everything becomes clear. Marcus doesn't feel shock, doesn't feel anger. He feels understanding. Betrayal isn't always a moment. Sometimes it's a pattern that finally becomes visible. He turns away before they notice him, but Marcus isn't running, not this time, because what happens next will change everything and reveal who he really is when the disguise finally comes off.
That evening, Sophia returns late. The apartment door opens quietly. She pauses when she sees Marcus sitting on the couch, the room lit by a single lamp that makes shadows dance on the walls. "You're still awake," she says carefully. "I was waiting," Marcus replies, his voice calm, too calm. She sets her purse down, movements precise. "I told you I'd be busy." "You did," he says. "You didn't say where." She sighs, the sound heavy with exhaustion or guilt or both. Why does it matter? Marcus looks at her fully now, without hope softening the edges, without love blurring the truth. I saw you, he says quietly. The words hang between them like a guillotine blade. Her expression shifts for just a second, fear, then defense. You followed me? She asks, her voice rising. No, Marcus replies. I stopped guessing. Silence fills the room, heavy, suffocating. She straightens, pulling armor around herself. I'm not doing anything wrong. I didn't say you were, Marcus answered. I said I saw you. She looks away, her jaw tight. I'm just keeping my options open. Options. Marcus nods slowly, the word settling into his bones. So that's what I am now? An option? She doesn't answer. Instead, she says the truth she's been circling for weeks. This isn't the life I signed up for. Marcus stands. The movement feels final. I know, he says quietly. That's why this ends here. Her eyes widen, real emotion breaking through the carefully constructed facade. You're serious? Yes, he says. I'm done pretending. About the money. About us. She scoffs, the sound bitter. You changed. Marcus shakes his head, something like sadness crossing his face. No, he says. I removed the noise. You made your choice. He picks up his duffel bag and moves toward the door. You're making a mistake, she calls after him, desperation creeping into her voice. Marcus pauses, hand on the doorframe. He doesn't turn around. No, he says softly. I just stopped making one. He steps into the hallway and lets the door close behind him with a soft click that sounds like freedom. Outside, the air feels cooler, lighter. The truth didn't shatter him. It clarified everything. And for the first time since this began, Marcus doesn't wonder what might have been. He knows. Marcus doesn't go far that night. He walks through the city without direction, letting the noise fade into something distant and manageable. For the first time in weeks, he's not measuring his words, not monitoring his reactions, not performing his presence. He's simply moving. Eventually, he stops at a small diner that never closes, vinyl booths, warm lights, a place where no one knows his name or expects anything from him. He sits by the window and orders coffee, and for the first time since this began, he allows himself to feel what he's been holding back, not anger, not heartbreak, relief. The truth no longer needs his attention. It's finished speaking. The next morning, Marcus wakes in a modest hotel room. The duffel bag rests unopened near the door. His phone lies face down on the nightstand. He knows what will be waiting: messages, questions, confusion. Instead of checking them, he showers, dresses, and sits quietly on the edge of the bed. Then he makes one call. By early afternoon, the disguise is over. Marcus walks into the downtown office building he once stepped away from. The security guard recognizes him instantly and straightens. "Welcome back, Mr. Bennett." Marcus nods. Inside, nothing has changed. The glass walls, the quiet efficiency, the people who move aside without thinking. Power returns easily. That's what surprises him most. Later that day, an article begins to circulate. Short, factual, unemotional. It mentions Marcus Bennett's return after a brief personal leave, his companies, his net worth, his influence. A photograph taken just hours earlier. Across town, Sophia reads it while sitting with friends. Her phone vibrates repeatedly, notifications stacking faster than she can clear them. When she opens the article, the color drains from her face like water from a broken glass. "This has to be a mistake," she whispers. Someone leans closer, reading over her shoulder. Wait, Marcus Bennett? That Marcus Bennett? Silence spreads across the table like spilled wine. Back in the office, Marcus sits with his leadership team. They speak carefully, respectfully, unsure which version of him they're meeting. "I needed clarity," Marcus tells them simply. "I found it." That evening, his phone finally rings. Her name. He watches it light up, vibrating against the desk. Then he sets it down again. A message follows minutes later. "I didn't know. You should have told me." Marcus exhales slowly before replying. "You saw exactly what I wanted you to see." An hour later, she appears at the hotel. When Marcus opens the door, she looks at him as if the ground beneath her has shifted, as if gravity itself has changed direction. "This changes everything," she says quickly, words tumbling out. "You were testing me. That wasn't fair." Marcus listens without interrupting. "You let me believe you were struggling," she continues, her voice rising. "You embarrassed me." "I was struggling, just not financially." She steps closer, desperation replacing pride. "We can fix this. We can start over. I never stopped caring." Marcus looks at her, searching for the man he was when he would have believed that. He doesn't find him. "What you cared about never disappeared. I did." He reaches into his bag and takes out the old jacket, the one he wore the night he left everything behind. He places it gently on the table between them. "This is who I asked you to choose. Not my money, not my name. Me." Sophia stares at the jacket, silent, lost. "So this is it?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nods. "Yes, this is the truth." As the door closes behind her, Marcus feels no triumph, only calm. The reveal didn't change the outcome, it only confirmed it. Power returned, but the choice didn't. And that's how Marcus knows he made the right one. The city welcomes Marcus back, as if nothing ever changed. Meetings resume, decisions are made. His name moves quietly through rooms where outcomes are decided long before anyone speaks. On the surface, everything looks exactly as it did before he walked away. But Marcus notices what's different. He no longer enjoys the attention. Power feels lighter now, almost distant, like something he carries rather than something that defines him. A week later, Marcus attends a charity event he committed to months ago. The ballroom fills with familiar faces, polished conversations, the soft clink of glasses. People greet him warmly, some with admiration, others with curiosity. "Good to see you back," someone says. Marcus smiles politely and moves on. Then he sees her. Sophia stands near the edge of the room, perfectly composed, laughing a little too brightly. When her eyes meet his, her expression freezes for just a moment before determination replaces surprise. She walks toward him. "Marcus," she says, lowering her voice, "we need to talk." "This isn't the place," he replies calmly. "I know, but you can't just disappear and pretend we never mattered." Marcus looks around. People nearby pretend not to listen, but no one is truly distracted. "This is exactly the place," he says quietly. "You wanted to be seen. Now you are." Her jaw tightens. "You set me up to fail." "No," Marcus answered. "I removed what was protecting us from the truth." She shakes her head, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. "That's not fair."
Marcus nods slowly. Truth rarely is. For a moment, her confidence wavers, cracks. "I loved you," she says, the words breaking. Marcus meets her eyes. "You loved what my life gave you." The words aren't sharp, they're not cruel, they're simply accurate. She steps back, suddenly aware of the room, of the eyes, of the image she's now trying desperately to maintain. "This didn't have to end like this," she whispers. Marcus exhales, something like sadness crossing his face. "It ended long before this moment," he says. "I just needed silence to see it." He steps away, leaving her standing alone in a space she once navigated so easily. Later that night, Marcus stands on the balcony of his penthouse, looking out at the city lights stretching endlessly before him. The view is the same one he once believed explained his worth. Now it feels smaller. He understands something clearly now. Power attracts attention. Peace attracts alignment.
And for the first time, Marcus chooses peace without hesitation. He doesn't feel like he won, he feels like he stopped losing time. The days that follow are quieter than Marcus expects. Not empty, not lonely, just quiet in a way that allows thought to settle like snow. He returns fully to work, but something has shifted. Meetings still happen, decisions are still made, numbers still move. Yet the urgency is gone. The need to impress has faded. For the first time, Marcus isn't performing his life. He notices how often people speak when he enters a room and how rarely they listen to one another. He notices how praise comes easily when power is visible and how silence follows when it's not. Once he would have mistaken that for respect. Now he understands the difference. One evening, instead of attending another event, Marcus takes a walk through a neighborhood he never paid attention to before. Small shops, dimly lit cafes, ordinary people living unremarkable lives. And somehow, that feels grounding. He stops at a community center tucked between two aging buildings. The sign is faded, the windows glow warmly from inside. Laughter drifts out as people stack chairs and clean up after a long day. A woman near the door struggles to lift a heavy box. Marcus steps forward instinctively. "I can help." She smiles, relieved. "Thank you, that would be great." They carry the box inside. "Do you volunteer here?" she asks. "Sometimes," Marcus answers, honestly. She nods. "We appreciate people who stay." The word resonates. Stay. Over the next few days, Marcus finds himself returning, not because he needs redemption, but because the space asks nothing of him. No resume, no reputation, no explanation. Here, he's not Marcus Bennett the millionaire. He's just Marcus. One afternoon, his phone vibrates while he's organizing supplies. A message from Sophia. "I miss you. I miss us. I made a mistake." Marcus reads it slowly. There's no rush in his chest, no temptation, no anger, only distance. He types back carefully. "I hope you find what you were looking for. It just can't be with me." He places the phone face down and doesn't pick it up again. That night, back in his penthouse, Marcus opens the drawer where his watch still rests. He takes it out, studies it, then places it back. Instead, he reaches for the old jacket, the simple one. He steps onto the balcony as the city stretches beneath him, loud and ambitious, full of people chasing the next proof that they matter. For the first time, Marcus doesn't feel the need to compete with that noise. He understands something now. Love isn't proven when everything is easy. It's revealed when nothing is being offered in return. The disguise didn't only show him who couldn't stay. It stripped away the version of himself that believed he needed to be impressive to be chosen. As the night settles in, Marcus breathes deeply. He's no longer testing anyone. He's choosing himself. And that choice, quiet and uncelebrated, feels stronger than anything money ever gave him. Morning arrives gently. Sunlight filters through the glass walls of Marcus's penthouse, softer than he remembers. The city wakes below him, unaware of the shift that's taken place in his life. Marcus stands by the window with a cup of coffee, wearing that same simple jacket he's grown to love. The suits are still there, the watch still rests in its drawer. Nothing has disappeared, but nothing controls him anymore. He thinks back to the night this all began. The mirror, the bare wrist, the question he was terrified to answer. Would she love me without the money? Now he knows, and surprisingly, the answer no longer hurts. Later that day, Marcus walks through one of his office buildings without announcing himself. People look up, surprised, then smile. He stops to talk, asks questions he never had time for before, listens without checking the clock. At lunch, he eats at a small cafe nearby. No one recognizes him, no one treats him differently, and for the first time in years, that feels like freedom. His phone vibrates once in his pocket. A business update, nothing personal.
No messages from Sophia, no apologies, no last attempts. Marcus finishes his meal and leaves without hurry. That evening, he returns to the community center. The volunteers greet him by name now, not because of his success, but because he shows up. He helps stack chairs, laughs at small jokes, listens to stories that have nothing to do with money or ambition. As he prepares to leave, the woman he met earlier smiles at him warmly. "See you next time," she says. Marcus nods. "Yes, you will." Walking back to his car, something unfamiliar settles into place. Peace. Not the kind that comes from winning, not the kind that comes from being right, the kind that comes from alignment, from knowing that the life you are living finally matches the person you've become. Marcus understands now that the disguise was never truly about testing love. It was about removing the noise, about stripping away the layers until only the truth remained. And the truth is achingly simple. Love that depends on comfort isn't love. Loyalty that disappears under pressure isn't loyalty. And a life built on appearances will always collapse when tested. As the city lights come on one by one, Marcus drives home, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it on his own terms. He no longer needs to test anyone, because he's already learned the most important lesson of all. Money didn't shatter his world, it revealed the truth that set him free. And sometimes losing the wrong person is exactly what it takes to finally find yourself. Marcus parks his car and steps out into the cool evening air. He looks up at the building, his building, and for the first time in his entire life, he doesn't feel defined by what he owns. He feels defined by what he chose to walk away from. And that makes all the difference.